Hey, welcome back to Kirk's Bee Yard, home of Jack's Honey. Well, we had an unexpected delivery just yesterday, right after our beehive inspections. So we have another little video here. So we got some changes to make. Looking right here at our little work table here, right here in the bee yard. We tried an experiment. We got in some beeswax. I had a honeybee that came over here, was still in wax, chewing on these foundations over here. So that told me that they needed more wax. So I contacted the company which I got the bees from. It's Barnyard Bees. They're particularly known for their gentle stock of American honeybees. And I'm wanting to make sure that I got wax from them, because a lot of other diseases come in from using outside wax, such as American and European foul brew, which you only have limited options to get rid of. Those options include getting antibiotics from a veterinarian, because it requires a prescription. Some people can bring their frames and their boxes and everything to places that have radiation, such as nuclear reactors, and they can run them through there. Or the most common and cheapest route is to burn all your frames and boxes in a big bonfire. You lose everything. I don't want to have to chance that. This stuff is actually very expensive. So I made sure I got wax from the same supplier that I got the bees. My bees are actually very, very healthy. So that's why I got the wax where I did. I was expecting it next week. That didn't happen. So it actually came in yesterday, right after hive inspections. So I tried my little experiment. I tried putting wax here on the landing board, and they did chew on it. But from the experiment, I also found that it attracted ants, and I don't want to have them have to fight the ants, and it caused more bees to be on the outside. It attracted hornets and wasps, which I killed 3 of, so that was actually a very good thing. And we have a honeybee getting a little drink. If she actually breaks that surface tension, she will drown, so I like to keep an eye on them. I'm also doing a little bit of watering in the yard. We got some dead areas, so I'm gonna haul in some turf. So looking at some equipment, and then we'll get into what we're gonna do today. Additional equipment that you haven't quite seen yet, is not in use, is the 5-frame nuke. This is hive number 3. The way I do my system, this is the hive number, this is the apiary, it's the Kirk Gilbert apiary for North Hobbs, hive number 3, and the month that it was established in the year. So 4/20. I'm sorry, I'm bugging your entrance. I got getting bumped by bees because they don't like me standing in front of their entrance. They're a little particular about that. This is a 2-frame nuke, hive number 4. I've already done with these frames last night after I got the wax in, what I did with these, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment. If you're wanting to produce queens, which we're eventually going to do in order to get more brood and build up our hive a lot better, I'm going to use this one, and they'll make their own queens, so I don't have to buy any. And it holds 2 frames only, and this one holds 5 frames. And I'll eventually move it over to there, and then start being able to move brood frames into the hives. So what I did with the beeswax last night was I also put some out on just an empty frame. They didn't even touch it. So since they didn't touch it, I proceeded to go with plan B and also get my next deeps ready, which I know I'm doing it really early. In fact, extremely early. But I also have good reason for that. The reason is I really want them to fill out 2 deep boxes with full drawn comb in each of the hives before September. That's a bit of a trick. I've done enough research to know that if they have 2 deeps for their brood chamber, then they will have plenty of sugar and honey stored up in order to survive the winter. That is the trick. They have to survive the winter. If they can't survive the winter, it's no good. In order to know how they survive the winter, you have to look at bee numbers. And there's a lot of different numbers for a lot of different things, such as hive inspections. How you know I'm going to do my hive inspection? I try to do it on Saturdays, weather permitting. What that means is they don't like a lot of wind. They don't like rain. You won't see them flying during those times. Back here is kind of sheltered, so they may be flying around the hives themselves, but there's not going to be a lot of foraging. Temperature, they build comb best between 75 degrees and 95 degrees. That's when it's pliable enough to work with. Any higher, it's too soft. Any colder, it's too hard, and they can't maneuver the wax and mold it to their specifications. So that's when they're drawing their comb. But as far as flight and foraging, they like it best, depending upon the bees, between 40 and say 55, 60 degrees. That's when they'll be coming out of their hive. Anything below that, they're not going to be flying. They're going to create a cluster with inside the hive in order to maintain their 90 degrees. So you can come out here with it's 32 degrees, put your hand around the top of the hive, around the vents, because they still need their ventilation in order to get oxygen, and you will actually still feel the heat. But it also causes condensation, so that's why during the winter we don't feed the sugar water, which is very similar to nectar. It's the closest thing you get to plant nectar off your flowers. We'll be feeding dry sugar. The condensation between the hot and cold within the hive will produce condensation of water. It'll moisten the sugar, and they'll sit there and they'll sap that up. That gives them a little bit of feed, a little bit of a better chance to survive the winter. Because, like I said, if it's too cold, they will not fly. There is no foraging. They survive on what is inside the hive. So we've got to make sure that they can make enough before it gets too cold so they can survive. That's why we need the 2 deep boxes. During the winter, you have their brood chamber down here on the bottom is called a deep. I'm using a super box, which is usually made to make honey, to store honey in, which is for human consumption. But these 2 are actually empty right now. There's no frames in them. Instead, I'm using the top hive feeder, and I'm doubling up because I'm trying to really encourage them to produce more comb, and stimulate for brood. So that's what I have in there right now. For today's plan, we're going to open up these hives, and we're going to try to add some deeps. Usually you wait until you get a good 8 frames of honey, or not honey, excuse me, bees, before you go adding deeps. But this is a new hive. None of these have comb on them. So we want them to build up, and it takes time for them to build. So let's look at some of the equipment that we have. This is what I'm trying to produce, or I'm trying to run for brood boxes. These frames are foundation frames, has plastic foundation. This is the way they come, and they're lightly coated with wax. If there's not enough wax, the bees won't touch it. And if it's not on there completely coated, then that will also lead to them drawing out comb that's in a uneven manner. I have 2 frames currently in the hive, which is foundationless frames. That's just with the plastic taken out, which is basically this. It's just a guide to get them started. See how that's uneven? That's wax. That's just how it came. It's okay, they'll move it. But if it's not uneven, you take your chances getting uneven comb drawn. But there is ways to encourage wax production. This is a good just a little interjection here. See the size of these versus the size of this. This is drone, this is worker. But they'll make whatever they think that they need, not what we're wanting. So they can change that up. It's not necessarily. The reason I'm putting these in is not for reproduction for mating for the queens, although it can be used for that. What I'm using this is pest control. You get varroa mites within your hive. It's a pest within it causes damage to the bees. So what they do is they like to hide and lay their larvae in drone comb. They love drone comb. So I'm putting this in here so they'll lay in here, and then I'll take this, stick it in the freezer for 24 to 48 hours, kill everything that's in it, scrape it off, use the wax I'll render it and then either sell it or use it for new frames. And which is what I did when I had to order wax, because being a new beekeeper, I don't have any wax to harvest. So I got my wax in yesterday, and I did something with these frames, on all of these 20 frames here, that I didn't have before. And that was, I added wax to them. That's why this looks very light in color. I have a broken frame over here. I can show you, put it next to it, show you the difference. This one is how it came from the factory, just how I ordered it. This one is what I've done to it. I added wax. The reason you want to add wax to it is it stimulates more wax production more evenly. I really want them to draw more comb out faster on here, because we only have a small amount of time throughout the summer, and depending upon of course I'm going to be keeping feed coming, but it depends upon the nectar flow and the pollen flow of our surrounding area, which also helps. I'm also keeping the feed on to encourage brood building also, because this first year is very, very crucial. So I've gone through both of these boxes and I have added wax to both of them. It doesn't matter if there's little places like this that gets too much, because they're going to chew it and they're going to arrange it to their needs the way they want. But it really does encourage them. Plus, having extra wax on the foundations that's already there just gives them a helping hand. That's less wax that they have to produce themselves. So that's really, really well. I like that a lot. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to set these boxes on top of the other brood chamber on the hives. But we want to encourage them to move up into this box. Bees naturally like to move up anyways. So that's why in the spring times we'll take the 2 brood chambers on the hives. After they'll move up to where the honey is, and they'll desert the bottom half. We'll just take it and swap it. We'll flip it out. That moves them back to the bottom, and the process starts all over again. But that is just their brood chambers, and that's a little bit of management, trying to encourage them to do a little bit better. That way they can put honey back on top, and then I can remove feed and let them use natural nectar and pollen, and that way they will draw out comb on the supers, which I am having storage there in those black bags behind the hives, and they'll have to draw out comb again. But then they'll be storing localized honey for human consumption. Sugar water, it can be consumed, but honestly, it doesn't taste good, and it's really not all that great. So it's very, very commonly known to avoid getting sugar water inside your supers that is going to be for human consumption. And we'll get it more talking about the honey and testing it for its water content, because I do have special tools to know exactly what percentage it's at, and I'm actually going to be very, very picky about its water content to ensure that there's no so it doesn't ferment and start turning into alcohol. If it's any commercial beekeepers, they want to keep it below 19%. I'm actually going to go a little bit more than that and go for that 18.5 to 17 range. Yes, it makes a little bit of a thicker honey, but that is just a safety measure that I would like to do so we get the best quality honey out. And when we get into honey, I'll even do a special video on why it's called Jack's Honey. It's actually in memory of a very, very special person and his wife. But today, get back on topic here. We got to put these on there and encourage them to draw up. How do you encourage them to draw up into these empties? Well, that is a process called checkerboarding. The first thing I'm going to have to do before I go checkerboarding is I want to need to move that frame feeder to the top box. So I'm going to stay on the right side, move all their feet up. They don't like anything between the two boxes. That will only stop them from moving up. So I'll have to move those over. What I'll do is it's 2 frames worth. I'll take 2 frames out of here, slide these 2 frames over, and set it into this empty space here. I will take these 2 and move them down into the bottom box. Checkerboarding is very simple. When you're looking at frames, you take their drawn comb and you go every other frame. Every other frame that's in the middle. So it's like this one is going to be drawn out comb, just a plain foundation, empty. Drawn comb, empty, drawn comb, empty. And you do that on top and the bottom. So yeah, I'm gonna have to bring some drawn comb up into this box. The trick is to make sure that they go up there is pulling brood frames that actually have capped brood up into this box, because they will nurse those bees and then they will hatch in the top. That is what stimulates them to come up to the top box. So, and I will be doing that for both. Like I said, all of these have wax added to them. I'll go through them one more time just to make sure. In beekeeping, especially if you're just starting, it is highly, highly, highly advised, and I can testify to this. You want to have everything before it happens. You don't have time to go, oh, hey, I need another box, or I need some more frames, or I need a new hive tool, and not have it there, and you already have bees and you need it now. You don't have time to wait for it to order it and then have it shipped in. So you really want to have everything right when you need it. I ordered wax a little bit too late. I should have had these boxes on yesterday, because it looked like they have a barely, probably not, but barely enough bees to do it. They have drawn out enough. Their wax production has really slowed down. Like I said in yesterday's video, they really, really care about bee space, which is that space right there. That's the space they like. Anything smaller are larger, they shy away from. They don't like it. But they also know how much space they need. If they need more space, things slow down, things start changing, and they're getting ready to make a move. What that move is depends upon what their need is. If they have too many bees, they could swarm. Not enough space for wax, they'll stop drawing wax. It'll really slow down. So I looked at yesterday's video. I didn't have a lot of time yesterday. I had some other things I had to do. And so I didn't have my wax yet. So I kind of rushed through the inspections, which is why I'm coming back out here today. Normally, you only go into your hives once every 1 to 3 weeks, depending upon the beekeeper and their situation. Most beekeepers, 7 to 14 days. I make sure I go into mine at least once a week. It makes sense to me with bees being very social insects. The fact that they're social gives them their own personality. It's no different than dogs and cats, pets, except they are, in fact, wild. So, my thought on it was very simple. If they're that social, and they're like dogs and cats, they have personality, it should make sense that I should let them get used to me. Let them get used to people. Yes, I can get too high. There's a possibility I could get stung. I'm not sure if I'm allergic, so I do wear a bee suit. A lot of beekeepers, especially barnyard bees, they don't wear suits. They don't even wear gloves. They go out and do hive inspections in a tank top and shorts and some flip-flops. If they make them mad, yeah, they take some stings, but they know that they're not allergic. I don't know, and it costs way too much, even with insurance, to get tested. And epinephrine and EpiPen, it costs a lot of money. I don't want to go there. It's easier just to wear a bee suit. I have 3 bee suits. I keep one inside the house at all times in case there is an emergency. I keep one in my truck in case I find a beehive out and about, or somebody says, hey, I need some bees removed. I'm eventually going to start doing removals, and I just spotted a wasp. Killed 3 yesterday, got another one in the yard today. So I still got some more wasp nests I need to go find. But that is the plan for today. I'll take some pictures after this. Might add some more to this video if my phone will let me. I've never done this before. So that is the plan. Well, let's get started and get them on.